My name is Chloe Bennett. I am 31 years old. And 7 years ago my family tried to trap me in a life I never chose. The morning that changed everything started with a sentence I will never forget. My father stood in the kitchen with a coffee mug in his hand and looked at me like I was foolish for wanting more. He laughed and said that women like me were not meant to build lives of their own. According to him, my purpose was to serve everyone else. At that moment, my mother blocked the front door, my younger sister dropped a diaper bag at my feet, and they all expected me to give up the biggest opportunity I had ever earned. I remember staring at that diaper bag while my niece tugged at my sleeve. My sister Lauren barely looked at me as she checked her phone. She said she had an important lunch meeting and needed me to watch her children. The problem was that I had a final interview that afternoon for a corporate position in Columbus. It was my chance to escape years of unpaid labor and finally create a future for myself. My family knew exactly how important it was. They simply did not care. From the outside, we looked like a respectable middle-class family. My father owned a small heating and cooling company called Bennett Mechanical. My parents attended church every Sunday. We lived in a nice neighborhood. People thought we were close. What nobody saw was the system inside our house. Lauren was the favorite child, and I was the one expected to carry everyone else. Lauren became a mother at 19. Instead of encouraging her to become independent, my parents treated her like royalty. Every responsibility she avoided somehow landed on my shoulders. At first it was small favors. Watch the baby for an hour, pick up diapers from the store, stay overnight because Lauren was tired. Before long, I was raising my niece more than her own mother did. At the same time, I worked every day at my father's company. I answered phones, scheduled technicians, processed invoices, handled customer complaints, and managed office operations. When the office manager quit, I quietly absorbed all her responsibilities. Yet my father never put me on payroll. Whenever I asked about being paid, he would smile and tell me that family helped family. Meanwhile, Lauren spent her days jumping from one dream to another. By the time I was 24, I was working more than 60 hours a week between the company and childcare. I slept on Lauren's couch several nights each week because one of the kids was always sick or crying. My own room had become a storage space for toys and laundry. I felt invisible inside my own life. Late at night, after everyone else went to sleep, I started taking free online courses. I learned project management, human resources, and advanced computer skills. I studied during nap times and lunch breaks. Every certificate I earned felt like a tiny step toward freedom. Eventually, I built a resume and started applying for jobs. Most companies ignored me. Some rejected me immediately. Then, one day a consulting firm called Meridian Strategies invited me to interview for an executive assistant position. The salary was more money than I had ever imagined earning. The role came with benefits, professional development, and opportunities for advancement. Most importantly, it was over 100 miles away from my hometown. I prepared for weeks. I borrowed a blazer from a friend, rehearsed interview answers in the mirror, and researched the company until I knew every detail. For the first time in years, I allowed myself to imagine a different future. Then came the morning of the interview. When I walked downstairs dressed in professional clothes, my mother's expression told me everything. She had already decided I was not leaving. My father mocked my ambitions. Lauren dumped the diaper bag at my feet and started listing instructions for feeding the kids. Nobody asked if I was available. Nobody cared about my interview. Something inside me finally broke. I looked at my niece. I looked at the diaper bag. Then I looked at the people who had spent years treating my life as their property. Without saying another word, I stepped over the bag, walked through the kitchen, and left through the back door. The cold spring air hit my face like freedom. I walked more than a mile to the bus station wearing cheap flats that hurt my feet. My phone buzzed nonstop with calls and messages. I ignored every one of them. For the first time in years, I chose myself. The interview went better than I could have hoped. The executives were impressed by my experience and determination. When they asked what the position would mean to me, I told them honestly that it would mean building a future instead of merely surviving. I left the building believing my life was finally about to change. When I returned home that evening, I packed a duffel bag. My mother accused me of embarrassing the family. I told her I was leaving. She insisted I would come crawling back. I simply zipped my bag and walked away. The next morning, I left town and moved into my friend Hannah's tiny apartment. For weeks I waited anxiously for a response from Meridian. Then the rejection email arrived. Another candidate had been selected. I was devastated. I cried once in the bathroom, washed my face, and kept going. The next few years were difficult. I worked retail jobs, temporary office positions, and anything else I could find. I struggled financially, but I was free. Every paycheck I earned belonged to me. Every decision I made was my own. Slowly, my confidence began returning. Then something unexpected happened. A year after rejecting me, Meridian posted another opening. I applied again. This time I got the job. I started at the bottom in human resources, but I worked harder than anyone else. I stayed late, volunteered for projects, earned certifications, and learned everything I could. Promotion followed promotion. Coordinator became specialist. Specialist became manager. Manager became director. By 2026, I was the human resources director. I had my own office, a strong salary, savings in the bank, and a peaceful life. I had not spoken to my family in years. I thought that chapter was over. Then one morning I was reviewing applications for a project coordinator role when a familiar name appeared on my screen. Lauren Bennett. My younger sister had applied for a position at my company. She had no idea I worked there. Curious, I opened her resume. Within seconds my stomach tightened. Lauren claimed she had worked as operations manager at Bennett Mechanical from 2017 through 2019. She listed responsibilities that sounded painfully familiar, because they were mine. Every bullet point described work I had done. The scheduling systems were mine. The customer service improvements were mine. The office operations were mine. Lauren had stolen my entire work history and presented it as her own. I followed company procedure and began verifying her employment. My father was listed as a reference. During the call, he confidently confirmed every lie. He claimed Lauren had managed the office full-time and had been one of his best employees. Then I found something even worse. While reviewing old company records, I discovered my original 2019 application file. Attached to it was a warning email sent the day after my interview. The sender claimed I was unstable, irresponsible, and unsuitable for employment. The email accused me of abandoning my niece and described me as unreliable. A quick investigation revealed the truth. The message had been sent from my parents' home. My mother had sabotaged my opportunity. For 7 years I believed I had not been good enough. In reality, my family had destroyed my chance before I ever had one. A week later, Lauren arrived for her interview. The moment she saw me sitting in the conference room, all color drained from her face. She had not expected to find me there. The interview began normally, but eventually I asked about her experience at Bennett Mechanical. She repeated the lies from her resume. She claimed she had managed operations for years. Then I presented the evidence. I calmly explained that every accomplishment listed belonged to me. I showed her documentation. I told her about the sabotage email. At first she denied everything. Eventually she admitted she needed professional experience on her resume and had used mine. Her excuse was simple. She said she needed a job. I looked at her and realized something important. For years I had sacrificed my future to make her life easier. Yet when given the chance, she had stolen from me without hesitation. The interview ended immediately. Company policy required us to reject fraudulent applications. Security escorted her from the building. Within hours my parents began calling. They accused me of humiliating Lauren. They demanded I fix the situation. They insisted family should help family. The irony was almost unbelievable. For 7 years I had helped family. 7 years of unpaid work. 7 years of lost opportunities. 7 years of sacrifice. When I finally chose myself, they called me selfish. I ignored every message. A month later, I received a message from someone I never expected. It was Emma. My niece was 11 years old by then. She told me she had secretly saved every birthday card I had sent over the years. Her mother had thrown them away, but Emma rescued them and kept them hidden. She thanked me for remembering her. I sat in my apartment and cried harder than I had cried in years. Out of all the relationships destroyed by my family, that one survived. Today my life is peaceful. I have a career I built through determination and hard work. I have friends who respect me. I have boundaries. Most importantly, I have freedom. Sometimes people ask me what the turning point was. It was not the promotion. It was not the confrontation. It was not exposing the lies. The real turning point happened years earlier on a cold April morning, when I stepped over a diaper bag and walked through a back door. That single choice changed everything. I lost the family I thought I had, but I gained the life I deserved. For years I believed success meant proving my family wrong. Eventually, I realized success was something much simpler. It was waking up without fear. It was earning my own money. It was making my own choices. It was building a life where nobody controlled my future. My parents never apologized. Lauren never accepted responsibility. They continued blaming everyone except themselves. But I no longer needed their approval. The weight I carried for so many years was finally gone. Emma and I still exchange messages from time to time. I encourage her to study hard, dream big, and never let anyone convince her that her life belongs to someone else. She reminds me that even after years of pain, something good can still survive. And if there is one lesson I learned from all of it, it is this. Some doors are meant to keep you trapped. Some doors are meant to be closed forever. And sometimes the door that saves your life is the one nobody expects you to walk through. 7 years ago, my family thought they were stopping me from leaving. Instead, they pushed me toward the future I was always meant to have. The moment I stepped over that diaper bag and walked through the back door, I stopped living for everyone else and started living for myself. It was the hardest decision I ever made. It was also the best one, because freedom often begins with a single step, a step away from fear, away from control, and toward the life you deserve. And that is exactly what I found on the other side of that door.